All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Training and Supervision Across Generations. This is our October scan program, and we are welcome and excited to be having Lauren Hopkins be our speaker this evening. Lauren is a social worker who is very passionate about having individuals and organizations strengthen knowledge, gain skills, and reach goals. Over the years, she has worked in the nonprofit, for-profit, and government sectors, evaluating programs, writing grants, developing training curriculum, and teaching adult learners. Dr. Hopkins works full-time as a grants and data manager at the Oliver Gospel Mission. She is also the owner and principal consultant of Prepared to Impact LLC, a social impact consulting firm that provides organizations with training design, needs assessment, grant writing, program evaluation, professional development services. She holds a bachelor's in nonprofit leadership and management, a master's degree in social work, and a doctorate in education and curriculum and instruction. Dr. Hopkins lives in Columbia with her family. Before we begin our presentation, I want to say that this is an open and brave space, and so we will wait for cues for Q&A during the presentation and also have Q&A afterwards. And when we get to that point, I will turn off the recording so that everyone can have the proper environment that they need to ask personalized questions. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. Hopkins. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Larissa. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you everyone for tuning in and for those who are present. I'm excited to learn with you today. Like Larissa said, I am Dr. Lauren, and our presentation today, we're going to be talking about training and supervision across generations. I really am passionate about this topic. As a training professional, I've been training for a while now, since about 2010. And I've really noticed sometimes there's a disconnect, especially with various generations when it comes to training, not just with technology, but various areas and sectors within an organization. And so our goals for today, I'm going to go to our goals real quick, is to provide you with training best practices. We're going to be going over that. Also, some supervision and management tips, especially if you are working with individuals from various generations. If you're a millennial and you supervise someone who is a baby boomer, what are the best practices with that? And then also we'll provide some real world examples and hopefully open up and have some really good discussion. Before we do that, I do want to just talk about, just introduce ourselves. Again, I'm Dr. Lauren. I work with Prepare to Impact LLC and then also Oliver Gospel Mission in Columbia, South Carolina. And a tiny personal or professional win that I have had recently, I actually went to take photos with family. We have not had studio or professional photos in a number of years. And so we did that this past weekend, and it really just rejuvenated me. So I'm happy about that. Larissa, would you like to share?
Yes, I will. I'm LaRushla Murphy. I'm the Arts Industry Director here at the South Carolina Arts Commission. And my personal win would be that I made time to create my own artwork, and I entered several pieces in the fair. And out of the 7, I won 4 ribbons in the arts and crafts section. So I'm really excited about being able to make time for my art.
Oh, that is so amazing. You've always been so talented. So congratulations. Yes. So we've gone over the agenda, and let's go ahead and get started with the content for today. So we're going to start off talking about training best practices, and we're going to go over each generation that you may find within a workplace. We're going to start off with the traditionalists. And so with the traditionalists, those are typically individuals who are between the ages of 78 and 95. And so ideally, you probably will have most folks in that age range who are retired, but there may be some that go back into the workforce. They're trying to keep busy or whatnot. And remember, we're just not talking about an office setting. We can, there could be individuals in all types of settings who are needing some training. Okay, so for these individuals, we want to make sure that we communicate with them verbally. The traditionalists do prefer that you speak with them face to face or even on the phone, as opposed to texting or email. That's just their preference. Okay. Also, as technology advances in today's society, these traditionalists, they probably will need help from somebody who is a bit younger to help with the transition and showing them some new technology. If there's a new software, something as simple as how to clock in, they may need some assistance with that. If we're talking about the nonprofit space, maybe there is a new donor software and one of their responsibilities is to get some information out of that. So just know that they may need some hand holding a little bit, but just be patient with them and they will do their best. And they also want employers to give them an opportunity to learn. These traditionalists, they love learning and they want to grow. They just need someone, like I said, to just be patient with them and walk alongside them. Also, the traditionalists, they're very open to learning and growing because they do want to expand their skills. They want to grow. They want to stay relevant. Okay, and adapt to today's world and today's society. So just keep that in mind that they do want to learn. It sometimes may be a bit different for them and they may take a little extra time, but they genuinely want to learn. And then also, in relation to training and learning, they do prefer to attend class in the traditional classroom setting. So not all of your trainings, it depends. If you have traditionalists in your workplace, you may want to offer in-person option in addition to an online option for those who are of other generations. But just keep in mind that for traditionalists, they may not be able to follow you as well, follow you online as well as they may be able to in person when they have a pen and paper and they can speak with you. Again, they prefer to communicate verbally and in person preferred. Okay. Next, we have the baby boomers, and those are people typically between the ages of 59 and 77. So some training best practices for baby boomers, they're very actually quite similar to the traditionalists in that they prefer to communicate in a way that is most efficient, and usually that is phone and face-to-face. When providing them with training tools and materials and supervision, they do prefer coaching style of feedback. So you provide them with some feedback, but always some also some guidance along the way too. So sort of like a coach, encouraging them and supporting, but also providing them with the tools they need to be successful. Also, the baby boomers, they are very much motivated by challenges. So if we're talking about training, if you are given some information, maybe provide an activity along with it, like a quiz or an activity to do something on their own and practice the tools that they have just learned and just received. All right. They also enjoy and they prefer to learn by highly credentialed individuals. And so as you are introducing yourself to the group, even if you are known at the agency, it doesn't hurt to reintroduce yourself and share, hey, these are my credentials. This is why I'm qualified to teach this topic. In addition, with the baby boomers, they do prefer the traditional physical classroom settings like the traditionalists, and they are open to using new technology, and they do prefer some one-on-one training. All right. So even with the traditionalists and the baby boomers, it would be very beneficial if they had someone alongside them one-on-one who can assist them and support, and not just with the training, but even afterward too. As we're talking about supporting, oftentimes when we are training individuals, sometimes we think, okay, we're going to give the information at once and then that's it. But sometimes, oftentimes rather, we require some ongoing help, some ongoing training. If we can pick up the phone and call someone, I don't know about you, but I prefer to pick up the phone if I have a question, pick up the phone and call rather than use the chat online. Now, there are some other generations that prefer to use the chat, and we'll get into that, but that's just my preference. And so we have to make sure that we are really adhering to the best practices for that particular generation. Okay. Any questions thus far? Nope. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about Generation X. Now, with Generation X, again, they prefer to communicate via phone, face-to-face, and they're actually okay with email too. It's just their preference, phone or face-to-face. They want to be able to speak with someone. Also, they prefer practice versus theory. So if you're telling them, hey, we are going to learn this, they want to know, how is this going to benefit me? How's this going to benefit me? How's this going to benefit my career, the agency? What do I need to learn as opposed to the theory behind everything? Okay, so they can know the goals, but also why are we doing this? Okay. As far as technology and utilizing technology within the workplace, they oftentimes think that devices and software, there really are tools to efficiency. They're very helpful. And so just keep that in mind, that those that are within Generation X are not afraid of technology. They actually want to give it a try. As they give it a try, remember that they do prefer step-by-step instructions. So that's just not with technology, but even if you are training on a new topic at work, a new process that you all are implementing, clear step-by-step instructions are key and very helpful for Gen X, and really for baby boomers and traditionalists too. If you can provide step-by-step instructions, now, of course, people are probably going to write their own notes on the paper, bring their own pen and pad. But if you have some instructions and then they can modify it, but based on their notes, that will be key. It's very similar to being in a training and you having access to the slides afterward or even before, right? Sometimes you want the information right then. And then also with Gen X, we do encourage you to provide opportunities for individual work. So after the training or after they've received some information, you can provide them with a challenge or an activity and allow them to work independently. Also, please make sure that you have an option for them to come back and ask questions to the trainer or whoever is their guide to help. And with Gen X, they are not intimidated by using technology. So don't be afraid to introduce a little something new. Remember, if you provide the tools for them to be successful, they're going to do their very best. Okay. Next, we have Generation Y, or we oftentimes refer to them as Millennials. Now, Millennials, they are a bit different. We're sort of getting into more of the technology here. Now, Millennials, they do prefer to communicate via social media, instant message, text, email, and they are okay with phone too, okay, and face-to-face, but this is just their preference, some of that technology usage. And so as you are training individuals and providing them with tools, just know that they may send you a quick text to ask a question or a clarifying question. Also, if there are some tools available online, if your organization has a website, and there is a blog available where you can provide some tools for even staff members, or even like Microsoft Office and some of the tools there, the technology piece and a way that we can go in and get the information that we need will be very helpful. With Millennials, we do have a shorter attention span. Okay, so just know that as you are teaching, if you're doing an in-person course or an online course, that sometimes we want it to get the information and then move on to the next topic. And so that's not always the case, but just best practices, just something to note. Also, as you are providing training tools and materials, they do prefer that the materials are interactive. Now, I do have an example like gamification on here, especially if you have an online learning management system. However, you can get really creative within like an in-person course or an online course, a live online course. And we'll do a little bit of that here today. We'll do a little activity and just to make it interactive so people can learn and grow together. Also with millennials, they do respond pretty well to trainings that enhance their existing skills. And so they're able to build upon that. I don't know if you're like me, but I love training classes that allow me to grow in what I already know. So in my bio, you heard that I enjoy program evaluation and grant writing, and probably about once a week, I'm taking a grant writing course or a program eval course to enhance the skills that I already have. So as you're thinking about your teammates, try to determine what they already know and how we can build upon that and enhance it. All right. Also with the millennials, they do love to incorporate social media within the learning environment. Now, we do know, especially if we are working with nonprofits, we may not have a online system for training, but just know that sometimes, depends on the agency, you may have a staff Facebook group or whatnot, or even a Slack. Perfect example. And so some of the agencies have Slacks now, and that is a form of social media. Someone can put in a link or add a resource or a video, ask a question. And so that is a form. So just keep that in mind that the millennials do prefer something like that. Okay. They do expect to use technology in the classroom, but just not in the training classroom, but in the workforce also. And just think about how can you incorporate some technology and keep it engaging. That engagement factor is very key. And with the millennials, they work really well with group work and with projects. And so just keep that in mind, especially if you are providing content and it's time for a breakout session. Okay, that's a great opportunity for them, and not just for millennials either, because remember, as we're thinking about baby boomers and the traditionalists, they oftentimes they learn well from younger individuals and then learn well just as a group. And so if we can get individuals together to learn and to grow and to ask questions and challenge each other, that is key. Okay. Any questions thus far? Okay. Let's go ahead and move to Generation Z. All right. So Gen Zs are between the ages of 3 and 22. And so you may have some individuals, even teenagers within Gen Z, within your workplace, depending on, sometimes you may have an intern or volunteers. Perfect example. Okay. Or even some young graduates. All right. So with Gen Zs, they do prefer to communicate via instant message, text, social media. And so just remember that they may not be as responsive in person or on the phone. Not saying that they are not going to be responsive, but they just might not be as engaging. And so keep that in mind. Also, they have even shorter attention spans than millennials typically. Okay, so just know that if they don't seem engaged, it doesn't mean they're not, but it's just their attention span is a bit shorter than some of the other generations. Oftentimes they do turn to YouTube for answers and for questions. I was actually tuning into a seminar for those who are in South Carolina, and then especially Columbia. Central Carolina Community Foundation did have a webinar talking about all of their grant opportunities for the year. And I actually missed one of the sessions, and something told me, go ahead on YouTube and just put them in. And there was that training right there. Okay. And so that's I think that's very common in today's world, but especially with some of Gen Zs and millennials and maybe even the other generations, they may go to YouTube for some answers. So just keep that in mind. So if you are providing some training materials and if you recorded it and if it's nothing confidential, you might want to put it on a unlisted YouTube channel, and you just provide the link to the team, or you can even record it and just put it inside of, say, Microsoft Teams if your agency uses that. But if you're able to record and have videos, that video factor is key, because they can go there, fast forward or rewind, look for what they need, and then go ahead and do what they need to do. Also with Gen Zs, they do prefer to work within a designated learning space, so a space that is designated for their training, but also in a well-lit area. And so try not to have the lights too dim. Now, if you're looking at a screen, that's quite different, but well-lit areas, let's keep that in mind. And also they do expect to be able to get materials from their smartphones and things like that. So even accessing training materials, what if you have a group of volunteers and they have an assignment? If you are able to provide them with the step-by-step instructions or whatnot, if you're able to email it to them and they can access it on their phones, that'll be helpful. Even with team members, it doesn't have to even be volunteers, team members. So that could be very helpful for this generation and for others as well. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So let's test your knowledge a little bit. So I have a little quiz for you. And so I think it's about 3 or 4 questions here. And so for those of you who are on, if you don't mind coming and open up your mic, and I'm going to ask the question and you just tell me which generation do you think meets these options. All right, so which generation wants to know immediately how the information will benefit their career? You know? For those of you that said Gen X, you are exactly right. Remember, Generation X, they want to know, how is this going to benefit me? Why do I need to know this? Remember? Okay. Next, we have which generation appreciates lessons that incorporate videos? Right. And we're going to say Gen Zs, those Gen Zers. They do appreciate lessons that incorporate videos. Remember, they prefer to go on YouTube, or even if you're able to provide a link. And not, sometimes we don't need to put everything on YouTube. And so if you're able to provide a video link on a secure platform, that'll be very helpful for multiple generations within your workplace. Which generation prefers to attend class in traditional physical classrooms? Now, there were actually a few, and we have the traditionalists and the baby boomers. They do prefer the physical classroom setting. So again, I know that oftentimes virtual sessions and training sessions are convenient, but it may not be the most effective depending on who's in the class or who's in the room. And so just keep that in mind. Sometimes we could do a hybrid, or offer the same class but either virtual or in person, and individuals can determine which one they would like to attend. And then which generation works well during group work or projects? And if you said millennials, you are right. So the millennials, they do work well during these projects. And I will say this too, is that there's a lot of value in group work, especially as you are training your team members, because with group work, we not only have the ability to show someone else something, somebody else in our group who may be struggling a little bit or missed a note or whatnot, but we're also able to learn from others through the conversation. One key thing about adult learning theory is that adults learn best by speaking with others, by communicating with others. And so there's a lot of value in group work, not just for the millennials, but probably for all of these generations. Okay. All right.
Dr. Lauren, can I interrupt and say that I think I'm learning that I am a millennial who operates like a baby boomer according to all of these tactics.
And that's okay too. I love it. I love it. And you know what, Laura, so that brings me to another point is that, just because someone is within a certain generation does not mean they are most likely to adhere to some of those. It's a mix, it depends upon, especially with your social service or human service background. We know it depends on our upbringing. Some people growing up are homeschooled, and some we went to public school. And so, some people prefer the one-on-one attention, and some, we just learn differently. We just learn differently. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So next we're going to go over supervision and management tips. All right. So first we talked about training, but after the individuals are trained, and of course we know that training is ongoing, but also supervision and management, they're ongoing too. And so there are a few suggestions that we have to work effectively with various generations that are in your agencies. And so let's start off with the traditionalists and the baby boomers. I put them together because the strategies for them, or the most effective strategies, are pretty similar. So with these two groups, it is helpful for you to provide opportunities for them to mentor while on the job. All right. So especially with the traditionalists and the baby boomers, they want to be engaged, and they have so much to offer, and their lessons learned over the years. And so if they can be a mentor to someone within the agency, I think that will not only allow others to learn, but also boost morale and help everyone to be engaged, especially that intergenerational engagement within the workplace. Also, for traditionalists and baby boomers, they are encouraged to continue their learning and their growing and their networking. So participating in classes, going to conferences, joining a community task group. If there's a task group going on, I know that me working within the homelessness realm, I'm actually a part of a few task groups that meet monthly and talk about what's going on and the needs of our community and funding needs and that sort of thing. And so if they are able to grow and network, that would be ideal. Also, a tip for you as you are supervising and managing a traditionalist or baby boomer is to communicate in person with them if possible. I know we talked about that a little bit and how they prefer, remember, verbal communication. So that in person would be ideal. And so if you are providing supervision meetings or whatnot, if you can meet in person, maybe go to someone's office, or maybe to a local coffee shop, or maybe walk around the building. But that one-on-one in-person communication would be most effective. Also, you can integrate new technology and ongoing training along the way. Okay. And so as you have information for them and some knowledge that they need to know, again, don't be afraid to introduce some new technology. Just make sure you provide the tools and the training that they need to be successful. Also, as you are supervising, try to provide good and bad feedback. So some feedback is not so good. So you can provide those types of feedback, but provide it positively. All right. So phrase your words in a way that it is a bit positive and shows that, hey, we are working with you. We know that you're trying. And so, but we do have a little bit of feedback for you. Okay. So let's positively provide good and not so good information. Also, offer flexible working hours, okay, especially if they are a bit older and if they're not comfortable with working traditional hours. If we can be flexible a little bit, that'll be great. And also, remember, well, this really applies to all the generations, but that flexibility is so important. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be remote, but sometimes flexibility within the hours is key. What if they are taking care of another family member, or they have some appointments or whatnot. That can be very helpful. And they can still get their work done, but knowing that your employer is caring about your well-being is it goes a long way, as I'm sure all of you know. And then just keep an open mind. Make sure you keep an open mind as you are working with these individuals. If they have suggestions, just be open to those. And remember, the traditionalists and baby boomers, they have a lot of experience. And so we just want to make sure that we are listening to them, and we'll see what we can modify as needed and as funding and time allow. Okay. Next, for Generation X, these are individuals between the ages of 43 and 58. We do encourage you to encourage casual, friendly, and a fun work environment. Okay. And so, in today's society, we do love a more casual working environment. And so the Gen Xers, they value that as well. We do encourage you as a supervisor to celebrate those wins and celebrate the results, and not just with Gen Xers, but with all of the generations. That's key and very helpful. Also recognize that skepticism may occur. Okay, so if you are, and I love the photo right here because the lady, she looks a little like what's going on. And so but just know that if you are introducing new information, or if your agency is introducing a new policy or a new service even to the community, all right, there may be a little skepticism. They may ask some questions or whatnot, and so recognize that may happen, and it is okay. All right. When discussing, be open to listening to their ideas, and allow them to share pros and cons based on their perspective. And we know that within our community, then society, and our workplaces, we all have various perspectives. And so let's be open to sharing those perspectives and being open-minded. Also, we do encourage you to request input from your staff members and allow them room to grow and to ask those questions. Provide constructive feedback whenever needed, and know that they could take the heat. It's okay. And again, Gen Xers, they want to grow and they want to learn. Okay. And then with the Gen Xers, they do prefer a hands-off management style. And so allow them room again to grow, but don't be so far away that they can't ask you questions. They want to make sure that you are available. Okay. Next, we have the supervision tips for millennials. And so with millennials, again, they prefer to utilize technology. And so if you're supervising them, we encourage you to look at some technology options and texting and email and maybe some messaging apps as you're supervising them. I know that I'm a big fan of Microsoft Teams and being able to put in a little message. And so that could be helpful. Also, provide them with opportunities to learn. And remember, an opportunity to learn can be mentorship, and not just from the supervisor and manager, but maybe another team member. Think about the traditionalists or the baby boomers, how they're encouraged to serve as a mentor. Well, a lot of these millennials, they are seeking mentors. And so that could be a really strong partnership. As a manager, we do encourage you to be transparent and to be honest. Also encourage the team to collaborate, and not just collaborate within the agency, but outside of the agency as well. So various community groups and whatnot, to network and to grow. Offer these millennials a seat at the decision-making table. They have great perspective and they want to feel valued and heard. And so offer a seat at that table is key. Provide constructive criticism with the tools to success, right? So we could provide that information, but also these are some tips on growing. All right. And then encourage them to make space for work-life balance. And as an employer, if you can make space for work-life balance also as an agency, that'll be great and very, very effective. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Next, we have Gen Zs. And with Gen Zs, for supervising them, we want to make sure that we request their input and show that you do value what they have to say. All right. So ask them, hey, how are you feeling about this? You know, if you need anything or ever have any questions, and check in with them. Okay. Check in with them periodically and ask for their input, especially if you're implementing something new or a program or whatnot, that can be really helpful. Also provide regular feedback with them. Even outside of your annual or biannual reviews, provide feedback even if you're meeting with them monthly or bi-weekly or weekly during your supervision sessions. Give that regular feedback to them and make sure that it's constructive and you're providing tools for them to be successful. Integrate technology and technology trends as it's available within the agency. Also foster some collaboration between teams. So if you are working with the programs team, then maybe the programs team can collaborate a little bit, say with the fundraising team. That's actually, I see a lot of value in that because with the fundraisers, they're out there telling donors and sharing the needs. Well, the programs team or the services team, they may work directly with the clients. And so, they might be able to share what those needs are. And so that cross-team or inter-team collaboration would be really helpful. I really encourage that. Also, with Generation Z, they really like if you highlight wellness and work-life balance, as we all do nowadays, and then show that you trust them. We know that Gen Zers in the workplace and at agencies are a bit younger, but show that you trust them and that you trust that they have the capability to be successful. Okay. Any questions about these supervision and management tips for across any of them? No. Okay. So we have an activity here, and remember, I'm big on engagement, and so let's just talk through a little bit. I have, I think, a few scenarios here about how would you respond, and I will be happy to share my insight and how I would respond to some of these. So let's go on. So with scenario one, we have that you are a millennial and just started a new executive director role at a small nonprofit. To get to know the staff roles better, you decide to meet one-on-one with everyone. While meeting with a baby boomer, they said they hoped that the new director was older so they had more experience. So the director had more experience. The team member also states, you young people are just taking over. How would you respond? Okay. So think about that for a second. With this, and realizing that this is a baby boomer, or it can also be a traditionalist too. But oftentimes they may think, hey, all these younger people are coming and things like that. So what I would probably do in this situation is say, hey, I thank you for being honest, and I value your feedback. May I ask you, was there something missing in the past director that you would wish that I would bring to the table, or do you find any value? What value do you find? I know that you have this perspective, but I'm here, I have an open door, and I am willing to listen, and I value your feedback. Okay. And so that is something. Anybody else? Okay. I am going to go on to scenario two. And so with scenario two, we have the agency, or your agency has used a particular donation and donor management software for the past 8 years. The leadership team has decided to purchase and implement a new gift and donor management software. So y'all been using the same software for 8 years, and now we are moving on to something newer. Currently, a Gen Xer manages the software. They're showing a great deal, I'm sorry for that typo, they're showing a great deal of skepticism when you share the news, and they're asking a lot of questions, and how would you respond? One thing that I would do, especially because I have been training software for a number of years, one thing that I would do is to help to ease their stress and say, hey, don't worry, we're going to provide the tools for you to be successful. So we have some training. We have a training package with the company. They're going to do the initial training. We'll also have a key person. Now, I only say this if this is true, but we have a key person, a go-to person if you have questions. Also, they have a whole workbook that's available that you can print off or you can access online. They have videos on YouTube. So you're going to have the tools to be successful using this new software. And just know that we're going to be patient with you. You know, the old software, I know that you've been using that for a number of years, but we are going to do our best to make sure that you have everything you need to continue to do your job and do it well. And I promise that will probably go a long way, and just reassuring them that, hey, we're trying our best to set you up for success. Okay. Scenario 3. One of your millennial team members is interested in taking a continuing education course at the local community college. They conduct research and bring you the details, you, the supervisor. Though professional development is promised in the employee handbook, there are no longer funds in the budget to pay for these type of expenses. All right. So what would you do? So one thing that I would encourage you to do is to try to seek out some free options, and just tell the team member, hey, I'm so sorry, we had to move around some funds, which might be the case, and say, hey, we had to take it out of there. However, we still want you to be successful. So remember that continuing education can come in a few different forms. I would start off by asking them, what do you want to learn? See if you know someone who knows that topic area, okay, within your own network. Also, and maybe you can connect them, right? Also, we can look at resources online, look at some free or reduced cost resources online, maybe some videos to start off. But I would sort of do an informal needs assessment to say, hey, what do you want to learn? What are the gaps that you have identified and that you want to learn? And we'll see how we can fill those gaps. Anybody else? Okay. Next, we have scenario 4, and it says a staff member who is a member of Gen Z has been working at your agency for 1 year. You notice that they seem disengaged during team meetings for the past few weeks. And during their annual performance review, you ask how they have been feeling lately, and they express, honestly, I've been a little bored. They are one of your top employees and you don't want to lose them. So how would you respond? Now, one thing, remember with Gen Zers and with millennials, or especially Gen Zers, that attention span. But honestly, multiple, generations can get a little bored with their roles, especially if they're doing something the same way each time, and people want to be engaged. And so what I would encourage you to do is just ask them, well, is there something new that you like to learn, that you're interested in? What do you enjoy about your job? And then what do you not enjoy about the job? What makes you feel a bit bored? And then just speak with them a little bit and see, hey, if you could connect them with someone, if there is some additional training that could be helpful for them to spark their learning. And maybe not so much training to learn a new part of their job, but to strengthen what they already know. I think that would be key. And people want to learn again, and they want to grow. And so if we could provide those type of resources, paid or free, There are lots of course, free resources online, and you might have to do a little digging and do some research, but they are out there. So I encourage you to provide some tools for your team members to stay engaged, because you don't want to lose good people. So we want to make sure that they're getting what they want and what they need, and also what's beneficial for the agency. Continual education is always beneficial for the agency, so so they can bring it back and apply it to their roles. Okay. Anybody else? All right. So any questions, feedback that you may have, anyone? Okay. Now there is an evaluation, and I believe LaRushula, she's going to put it wherever you're able to access this video. I thank you so much, and I appreciate your honest feedback, and I would love to connect with you. So if you don't mind connecting, if you're on LinkedIn, please send me a message on there or email. I would love to connect, and I just thank you so much for the opportunity to teach you today, and I hope you were able to learn something to take to your workplace. And if there is nothing else, I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Lauren. We do have one question in the chat, and it was in regards to how to apply some of these areas. Let's say you're a middle management and you're managing your team slightly different than your executive team. How do you make sure that you're following the brand of the organization, but also still incorporating the different styles of your team?
Yeah. And so what I would do is I would probably start off by speaking with someone in upper management and just make sure I fully understand the organizational culture. And then, especially as a person in middle management, I'm a type of person that I like to get to know the folks on my team. So I probably would, during one of our team meetings or even one-on-one, try to gauge the pulse of folks and then see, all right, what type of tools can I utilize or implement to make sure that I keep everyone engaged, keep everyone happy, but also make sure that we're being effective within our roles, especially as we are training and supervising. We want to make sure that we are being supportive, but also helpful, not just for the team member, but also for the agency too. So I encourage you to, again, do an informal needs assessment or a roundtable, and to identify, all right, what are the needs of the people? And then you may have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, but access your resources and see what you can pull together, and just take a little bit for and even for the generations. Say for instance, you have a team with 3 or 4 of the generations, right? You could take a little bit from each. All right, you're not going to fully make everyone happy. Even you, LaRushla, you said that you're a millennial, but you sort of learn probably like a baby boomer. And so so you could take a little bit from each and see what sticks, and someone was going to leave with something that's valuable. So yeah, that's my advice.
Okay, thank you.
You're very
Well,
welcome.
if there's no further questions, again, I want to thank you for your time and your expertise, and thank you for being a part of SCAN. We look forward to connecting with you again in the future. And everyone, feel free to reach out to Dr. Lauren. Her contact information is provided. And have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.